So the purpose of today is threefold, really. First of all, we wanted to introduce you to the RECODE network. We want to initiate the development of a multidisciplinary community who are interested in the three themes of the network, which we hope you will all be a part of, and also sort of spread the word of the network and include as many different interested people as possible. And also to start to develop a roadmap and future vision for redistributed manufacturing, and to start asking some of the questions about what it is and how we can move towards models of the future in this area. So this morning we've got three insights, really. First of all, I'll be providing you a bit of information on what the network is and what we hope to achieve over the two-year programme. We have Mark Claydon-Smith from the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council, who will provide you a bit more context around redistributed manufacturing, the 6 networks that have been funded, and what the potential impact on UK manufacturing could be. And then we have Daniel Keeley from Cisco talking about how big data and the Internet of Things can influence and can transformationally disrupt business models of the future. We'll then move into some breakout sessions towards the end of this morning and this afternoon, where we'll begin to design and to explore some future redistributed manufacturing models within the consumer goods sector. So I'd like to begin by introducing you to some of the core academic team that have largely made up the network and some of the thinking behind it. We have some of these people here today, so if you'd like to kind of wave and identify yourself. So we have Mohammed Zaki from Cambridge Service Alliance. We have Richard Court from Teesside University. We do have Babis, or maybe not yet. Okay, so we will have Babis Theodoulis later on from Manchester Business School, and Ash Tiwari, who's from Cranfield as well. And we also have the latest member of our team here, Marielle Moreno, who's going to be joining us from July at Cranfield as our network coordinator and main researcher on the project. So welcome to Marielle. So please do grab these people and ask them more about their own interests and what they're doing as part of the network. So you may well be asking, what is redistributed manufacturing and what do big data and consumer goods have to do with it? And this, in fact, is one of the key questions that the network is based on and hopes to be able to answer or shed some light on over the next 2 years. And we have a programme full of activities, feasibility studies and engagement events such as this one, through which we hope to inspire discussion, and we hope to initiate research projects and also industrial practice through. So the production of consumer goods has remained largely unchanged for the last 250 years and is largely characterised by mass manufacture, multinational corporations and globally dispersed supply chains. And due to the fast-moving nature and the low value of the products that are typically produced by the sector, it is estimated that around 80% of materials from the consumer goods sector ultimately end up in landfills, incinerators or wastewater. And so also the current model has created quite a significant void between manufacturers and end users. And this is limiting the opportunity for things like personalisation, upscaling of local enterprise, and also the development of user-driven products that are tuned to the requirements of local markets. And on the other side of things, we have the exponential growth of available and potentially valuable data, which is compounded by the internet, social media, cloud computing, and mobile devices. And it's already facilitated transformational change in a number of different industries, including retail, healthcare, and to a large extent, agriculture. And so we think big data holds significant opportunity to address many of the challenges being faced currently by UK manufacturing, such as increasing scarcity of resources, diverse global markets, and also a trend towards mass customisation. And much of the research surrounding big data up until recently has very much focused on high-value manufacturing. And so we think that there's a significant gap in research and in the market for big data that really focuses on the production and consumption of consumer goods, which is how really the themes of the network came about. And we can already see examples of where big data and, to a certain extent, redistributed manufacturing are already happening in the consumer goods sector. So we're all familiar with the Apple Watch, but more generally kind of wearable technology, which is a significant trend that's emerging at the moment. And it's fascinating how consumer goods products are being so important, I guess, in the management of products around us. So, for example, the fact that you can now preset your heating through your watch and wearable technology. And actually, I think some of these aspects of big data and consumer goods, which I'm sure are going to come up later, do focus around sharing of available data between consumers. And I think that's an enabler, but is also very much an area of contention and how consumers want to share or don't want to share. I mean, I'm a runner, for example, or I try to be, and I've got a smartwatch, and I'll go for a run and I'll come back and load the data into my computer. And it fascinates me to see that I can actually identify other runners in my local area that have done the same track as me. I don't know them and I'll probably never meet them, but I compete against these people just through the data that's available through my watch. And it's fascinating. And I think, I mean, you could ask, so where does redistributed manufacture come into this? But I think this is a great example of how manufacturers are really becoming a lot closer to the end user, and the available data that could potentially feed back into design and the manufacturing process is incredible. We're also doing a lot of work with a company called Envirocom. And initially, Envirocom were the UK's largest recycler of white goods and WEEE. However, they're now moving into a different space and have identified the opportunity to recapture white goods, laptops, tablets, cookers that seemingly actually have come to them as waste, but actually they've still got a lot of life left in them. So, for example, they've got a significant partnership with John Lewis, who deliver thousands of goods to homes all over the country. And if that product, say a large cooker, is scratched on the way into that home, it will be sent to Envirocom as waste for recycling. They've developed a whole new part of their business, which is now taking those products, refurbishing them, reconditioning them if they actually need it, and selling them online. And this has created a brand new revenue stream for them out of what was potentially considered waste. And so I think this is an example of redistributed manufacture, because it's not necessarily the intent of the primary manufacturer, but I think there's an opportunity in this space for startups, for other companies, to really start to identify new revenue streams from the system that we have around consumer goods. We're also working with a company called 42 Technology in Cambridge, and they are working with the consumer goods sector, but looking at how they can embed sensors within consumer goods. So they're working on the development of electronic toothbrushes, for example. The primary aim of this is to actually get insight into how products are being used in the market through unintrusive sensors that then send that data back to the manufacturer and the designer to improve design. But again, it's an example of how there are companies, smaller companies, that are working on developing this technology so that we can close this gap between the manufacturers, the suppliers, and the end users. So what we aim to do with the RECODE network really is to explore how the capture, the analysis, the interpretation and the communication of big data can facilitate an insight-driven and more localised model of consumer goods manufacture for the future that can have the potential to transform productivity, competitiveness and largely opportunities for innovation. So we imagine a future where supply chains are no longer globally dispersed, but are a flexible, digitally connected web of local producers, suppliers and entrepreneurs that are capable of on-demand supply of personalised products and services. Imagine a future where customers, manufacturers, suppliers and products are engaged in insight-driven, meaningful and durable relationships that respond to local market trends and span lifetimes of products and services. Imagine having the capability to make decisions based on smart analytics of productivity, efficiency and also an inventory of all of the materials, components and products across your portfolio at the touch of a button. So the EPSRC and ESRC RECODE network aims to develop an interactive and engaged community of academics, international experts, industrialists and also importantly end users to identify, test and evaluate a multidisciplinary vision and research agenda for the future of redistributed manufacture. So some of the kind of themes, I guess, if you like, that we've been thinking about as a team of academics and also industrialists over the last 18 months include connected manufacture. So we want to look at how data and future connection technology can be used to enhance an interconnected model of production and consumption. We want to look at open innovation. So how can consumer goods companies tap into distributed knowledge and share that model across their suppliers? How could data sharing with consumer goods service network facilitate open innovation? And what are effective models of data-driven open innovation? How do we capture that data from consumers and use that effectively in design? We also want to look at the circular economy, and can data-driven insight be used to create opportunities for regenerative models of production and consumption, such as the Envirocom example? How can we monitor and recapture valuable materials from within this sector? How can we use data to incentivise take-back schemes and models of collaborative consumption, for example, within our user base? We want to look at user-driven innovation and to identify how data can inform more tailored design of products and services for local markets and local regions, and engage innovation and also entrepreneurs in the wider supply chain. We also very much acknowledge that there's a lot going on in the rest of the world, so we want to identify how manufacturing models in other countries, how policy, how legislation can be brought into the UK, how we can learn from it to develop future models of manufacturing for the UK. And we also want to look very much at the production community. So what is all of this going to mean for producers? What are the different skills that are necessary? What are new organisations of the future going to look like? What are smart factories going to look like? And how are those smart factories going to be located within geographical regions and tap into those market trends and those user-driven approaches? We also recognise that we don't have all the answers. These are some of the themes that we have thought of that we think are relevant to the network. But the purpose of events like today are to really explore some of the other themes that we perhaps haven't thought of that are going to be really important to this as we move forward. We've also identified a number of cross-cutting challenges that we think overlay each of these different themes. So things such as user engagement is going to be a really important aspect of the network. How do we engage with end users? How do we engage with suppliers and manufacturers? Also looking at data analytics, there's no question that there's a huge availability of this data, but actually how do we analyse it and how do we effectively communicate it so that it can be used efficiently? What are the skills and training? Also security, privacy and governance, as I already mentioned, I think are going to be key aspects to all of the work that we do as part of the network, and there will be a lot more. So the network is spanning 2 years, and we aim to undertake a number of different activities across those 2 years to engage diverse communities and really to make sure that the network is as inclusive and diverse as possible across the 3 themes. We're going to run a number of events such as this. We have our next event coming up in Manchester on the 19th of June, which is being hosted in collaboration with the Manchester Chamber of Commerce and really focuses on trying to identify and trying to engage with smaller organisations in specific geographical regions. We're also going to run a number of feasibility studies, which I'll talk about a bit later, to really drive down into some of the research that's key to the network. And we hope at the end of the 2 years that we won't just have a network that stops there. We hope that this will go on and develop into a number of other areas of research, a number of industrially funded projects, we hope that we'll be able to identify a multidisciplinary roadmap that maps out the next 2, 5 and 10 years of redistributed manufacturing in the UK. We also hope to impact industry through things such as insight-driven product and service development, and identify examples of where the network and its activities have really made a difference within industry and have taken up some of the ideas that we have been researching and discussing. So the feasibility studies I mentioned, the network will fund over the 2 years up to 5 feasibility studies. 2 of these have been decided by the core university team in collaboration with our steering group. And these will focus on, first of all, the development of a big data ecosystem in redistributed manufacturing that really looks at developing a decision tree for companies that are wondering, is redistributed manufacturing appropriate to me? How do I actually go about assessing economically, environmentally, socially, what the benefits of redistributed manufacturing are? And secondly, we want to look at the overlap between the circular innovation or circular economy and redistributed manufacturing. We want to be able to identify and quantitatively analyse actually how redistributed manufacturing could incentivise or could facilitate models of a circular economy. We'll also be allocating the next 3 feasibility studies through a community sandpit. The call for participation in the community sandpit will be released later on this year, and I'd encourage all of you to get involved in that. And what that will be is a 3-day event where we will bring together academics, industrialists and potentially end users as well to really focus on what are the key issues, what do we really want to explore as part of the network, and out of that community sandpit will come 3 additional feasibility studies. So please, if you're interested in participating in any of those, then come and grab me and we can discuss that. We have a great steering group for the network, and I wanted to introduce them to you because I think it's a really important part of the network that we have a lot of influential expertise that are really guiding the network in what we do and making sure that what we do is relevant to industry. So a few of these names you'll probably recognise. The steering group is chaired by Graham Hillier from the High Value Manufacturing Catapult. And we have members from Unilever, from IBM, from Cisco, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and also organisations such as the Engineering Employers Federation. And so we hope with our steering group that we can direct the network to really identify core pieces of research that are going to influence society and industry. And this is just a map of some of the companies that we're engaging with so far. But as I said, the aim of the network is that we are as inclusive as possible. So over the next 2 years, I'm hoping that this will really grow to identify kind of other people, other organisations, small and large, that are really interested in these key areas. So I wanted to end on a video that was developed by some of our students. One of the key parts of the network as well is that we have our 4 university partners, and we really want to engage students in this process because this is their future that we're developing, and I know as well as anyone that they really come up with the best ideas and the craziest questions. And so we've run a 3-month project at Cranfield, really exploring the area of what redistributed manufacturing is, and it started to help us identify how we can engage with diverse communities across the network. And so this video is really to give an introduction as to what redistributed manufacturing is from that 3-month project.
Reimagining the future of UK manufacture. Let's start off with a product's typical supply chain. We have a resource input, sub-assembly manufacture, product manufacture, retail, consumer, and finally end of life. UK manufacturing is currently offshored and centralised in countries such as China, India and Bangladesh. However, in the future, this system will evolve because of 2 influences. First, increased risk to global supply chains as a result of climate change, economic fluctuation and security threats. Second, the emergence of new technologies, such as the application of big data in IT systems and additive manufacturing. Current methods of production will be transformed to allow for increased flexibility and quality. These technologies will lead manufacturing into a new fourth industrial revolution, being referred to as Industry 4.0. This represents the transition to highly advanced production methods through the introduction of cyber-physical systems, taking advantage of smart, connected objects along with big data and analytics. These advances combined will turn current factories into new smart factories. Over time, these factories will transform manufacturing to a decentralised system called redistributed manufacture, which creates a more resilient system through a fully connected supply chain, creating opportunities for products to be reused and become a resource input instead of going to landfill. Redistributed manufacture allows for production on regional or local scales and has various benefits, which can be categorised into three sections: economic, social and environmental. Economic benefits include a more resilient system that is not as exposed to the risks with our current global supply chains, such as increased volatility in currencies, global disruptions due to catastrophes, and rising transportation costs. Rising wages in traditional low-cost labour countries are making industrialised countries attractive when considering the productivity output per worker, creating opportunities to increase economic growth from the manufacturing industries. It improves cash flows for companies by reducing the long lead times currently associated with centralised manufacturing systems. Social benefits of redistributed manufacture are it provides a more tangible relationship between companies and communities in which they operate. It will bring people closer to businesses, developing a more supportive local community, allowing for a more flexible and responsive system to meet customer demand by making it easier for people to personalise their products and allow for small-scale trials, lowering the cost of innovation. Environmental benefits of redistributed manufacture are it provides a more efficient system than centralised manufacture. It has the potential to reduce environmental impacts, carbon emissions, and reduce resource waste in the areas of packaging and material waste. In addition to this, it can lower transportation costs because manufacturing can operate on smaller scale production. Redistributed manufacture represents a significant competitive advantage, particularly in the medium and long term. By taking steps now to embrace a transition to a redistributed manufacture model, both companies and nations can begin to build the foundation required for success in the world of tomorrow.
Thanks. If you want to find out any more about the 3-month project that we undertook at Cranfield, then we have a blog that the researchers produced, which will be available after today and also on our website. So before I finish and hand over to Mark, I just wanted to draw your attention to the cards that you were given when you came in. What we're hoping to do is really to try and collect kind of a community or initiate the community and to try and identify what your interests are, what drew you here today, what your interests are in redistributed manufacturing, consumer goods and big data. And so if you wouldn't mind, once you've filled in those cards, either leave them on this table or stick them up on the wall. And then what we're going to try to do throughout the day is try to begin to map some of those interests so that we can develop communities of practice, or at least links between some of you to really represent some of the themes that are of interest in the room.